So now let's talk about creating 3D sketches in SolidWorks. Now for that, I'll go to this sketch tool, click here, and I'll select 3D sketch. So as you can see, we have two options, a simple sketch, which is basically a 2D sketch, and then 3D sketch, and that's the one which I'll select now. Now for 3D sketch, you don't need to select any plane because you can make in any of the planes. And here you can directly start with a sketch tool. Now I'll start with rectangle. So I'll select rectangle, and now we are ready to make our drawing. So by default, it will highlight one of the planes, and as you can see right now, XY plane is selected and also it's highlighted here. So it will show you X and Y axis. Now, if you make a drawing now, it will make it in the XY plane, but if you want to switch to any other plane, then you can press tab key and it will switch the plane like this. So right now we are in the ZX plane, and that's what I'm going to select. Okay, let's just go to this second rectangle. I'll select center rectangle, and now I'll click exactly here and I'll make the rectangle right here. Now if you want to switch your plane even now, you can press tab key and here we are, it will switch the plane, but we just want to make it in this plane, so I'll just click and here we are, we have got the center rectangle. Now let's add the dimensional constraint. So I'll go to smart dimension and I'll start by adding the first one right here. So let's make it 100 unit, and then this one, let's just make it 60 unit. Okay, so there we are. Now, even after adding these two dimensions and keeping this thing exactly at the center, you'll notice that the drawing is not yet constrained, because in this case, we need to add extra constraint. This drawing can float freely in any of the existing planes, because if you move it, if you try moving this drawing, you can do so. You can just float it along any of these directions. As you can see, it will just freely move. So in this case, in order to constrain it properly, you need to constrain at least two of the edges. So here I'll select this edge, and now we have a different kind of relation. So you can constrain it along X, Y, or Z axis. Well, this line is made right along X axis. As you can see, red line is the direction of this line as well. So I'll just click on along X, and that's now constrained along X. For this one, well, we need along Z because that's along Z axis. So I'll select along Z, and that's also constrained, and the drawing is also fully constrained now. Okay, so that's done. Now let's make another one. So for making another drawing, I'll just go to this line tool, and maybe I'll just select center line, and I'll make a center line using this midpoint, and I'll just make it in this direction. But as you can see, it is making it exactly along the plane where we have this rectangle, which we don't want. I want it along vertical direction. So I'll press my tab key, and now it is along XY. Okay, so let's just make it like this. There we are, and add the smart dimension. So I'll just add it to make it 50. There we are. Okay, now using this as a reference, I'll create a plane right on top of this, and then I'll just make another sketch. And you can do that using this plane option on the sketch panel. So here you can use this plane option to create a temporary plane. So here I'll use this sketch and this point as the reference to create my temporary plane. And once we have the plane, we can just use it to create any kind of a sketch on this. Now in this case, I will start by adding another rectangle here. So I'll just go to rectangle, and I'll just add one like this. So here we are. Now we have the rectangle. Let's just constrain this one too. So I'll just go to smart dimension from this point to this. Let's just make it 30 unit, and from this point to this, let's just make it 60. All right, there we are. And this is our drawing. Now, as you can see, this drawing is not completely aligned and not on top of this one. And we can do that as well. If you just want to align it exactly, then you can add another reference. So you can just go to line tool and connect this point with this one on the previous rectangle. But as you can see, it is just making everything on this plane because that's the selected plane. So I'm going to deactivate that plane, and to do that, just double click outside and the plane will deactivate. Now I'll go to line tool, I'll click on this point here, and I'll click right here. Okay, let's do it again. So line tool, I'll click here, and then I'll click right here. Okay, so we've added it. Now it's time to just constrain this one, and to do it, I'll select this line, and I'm just going to move it along Y axis. There we are. Now this is completely vertical. Let's do it again for this one. So I'll go to this line and I'll make it along Y. And with that, it is over constrained, but that's totally fine. I'm just going to click OK, and I'll delete this construction geometry, and yes, and there we are. Now it is completely defined. So we just don't need 3 of these lines to define it, and that's why it was over constrained. So here we are. Now once again, you can see that this line is blue, and that indicates it's not fully constrained because we can still constrain these 2 lines along Y and X axis. And if you want to, you can just do that. But here, maybe let's just do that quickly. So I'll just select this one, and this is along X axis. So just click here, and it's going to constrain it there. Now this line is along Z axis. So let's just click along Z, and that's also constrained. Once again, it is over defined. So I'll just undo this, and I'll leave it for now. And now let's add the remaining sketches. So I'll go to line tool. Let's add it from this point to this. Now for adding this, you don't need to select any of these planes, and you can start on any of these planes, XY, YZ or ZX. So just select line tool and connect any existing points, and that does not require you to just select any of the existing planes. And here we are, we have got a 3D sketch. Now that's how you can create 3D sketches in any plane that you want. Now you can use this kind of 3D sketch where you want to make sketches along several different planes, but you don't want to use different disjointed sketches to just make it. So instead of making several different sketches and then later join them all together, you can use this 3D sketch and make your 3D line geometry using just one single command. So once you are done, you can click exit sketch, and here we are, we have got this 3D sketch, and it is all inside this single 3D sketch in the feature tree.